Oh, caught me off guard there. Welcome, America. Welcome to Spooky Scotland, the show that educates you while sending shivers down your spine. That's right, prepare to be spooked, because this week we're in Edinburgh, Scotland's capital. One of the most beautiful cities in the world with past darker than dark chocolate. So grab your brandy. Oh, that's good. Have we smoking your tobacco pipe? And prepare for the show. So what spooky stories will we be looking at this week? We've got Robbie exploring the depths of Mary King's Close. I'll be having a chat with historical expert Aberdeen Adam. Peter will be getting supernatural with George Mackenzie. And we have a short but sweet, did I say sweet? I meant spooky, of course. A short but spooky tale with Victoria to finish the show off. Mary King's Close is one of Scotland's most popular tourist attractions, Edinburgh's underground city. Here to tell you more is a Scottish lad called Robbie.
Back in the 1700s, scattered around sooty stairwells such as these, lived tenements where the average life expectancy was a mere 35 years old. And when Edinburgh was struck by the plague, what was the answer? Pen them in, shut them off. That's what they wanted, and that's what they got. However, a housing problem caused tenants in Edinburgh to plea for Mary King's Close to reopen its doors. First, the bodies had to be removed. Can you imagine carrying the bodies, the dead bodies of plague-infested mutants down stairwells such as these? I, for one, know that I would be bloody knackered. Yeah? Well, they stopped. They left them here to rot. They shut the doors for 300 years. And they were lurking. Spirits were lurking. Can you hear them? Have a listen. Just have a listen. Pray you don't feel a chill breath down the back of your neck. And so the doors were closed. Windows such as these, where many residents used to fling their excess waste to the streets, were shut. Mary King's Close had closed, and with it remained the bodies of plague-infested mutants coughing on you, splurting on you, dying on you. And the spirits carried well over time, for 300 years. The inconvenience of carrying a dead body up and down a flight of tenement stairs proved too much, whereas nowadays your neighbours have a go at you for leaving a bit of rubbish in your landing. Can you imagine coming across a severed head? Coming across a nice little arm in the landing? Doesn't bear thinking about, does it? And so, shut it stayed until recently, and the doors opened and the spirits remained. And if you just listen closely, you can hear it. You can hear them lurking. You just have to listen. You just have to feel that chill on the back of your neck. See, as tourists, I know what you're all going to be thinking, coming over from the States and whatnot. You're going to think, Scotland? Supernatural beings? So they can hurt me. It's 2016. I'm a millennial. I'm cool. I'm trendy, and nothing brings me down. Yeah, funny. You do that. You come over here. You come over here. You can visit Mary King's Close now. It's open to the public. You come over here with that blasé bravado of yours. Nothing can hurt me. Yeah. You don't go crying to your mummy and daddy when a little 300-year-old spirit of a girl comes, tugs at your jacket, taps on your shoulder, and says, "Welcome to Mary King's Close."
Spooky, right? I know. And it only gets spookier because we now have the spooky Aberdonian Adam here in the spooky studio to tell us about the incredibly chilling Burke and Hare. So Adam, who were these people, and more importantly, how were they spooky?
Well, Aaron, there were two Irish immigrants from Ulster some people believe. And over a 10-month period in the early 1800s, they murdered 16 people and sold them off for medical schools. And yes, they were really spooky.
Wow. How many people did they kill?
Well, they murdered 16 people, one of which was already dead. But all of those bodies were given away so they could make money due to a shortage in bodies.
So why did this spooky duo kill so many people?
Well, in the early 1800s, there was a bit of a medical boom. Everyone wanted to become a doctor, so they were moving to all the major cities to learn, and Edinburgh just so happened to have a really good school, the Edinburgh Medical School. But they were increasingly reliant on legally obtained bodies to be donated for anatomy classes, so they could dissect them and reveal the inner workings of the body. But the usual supply, which were executed criminals, they ran out. Not enough criminals were getting chopped off. So eventually there was a black market appearing where people were grave digging and giving those bodies away for money. And the Burke and Hare, they didn't do that, but they did murder quite a few people.
Yeah. And murder's a lot worse.
It is.
Than digging up corpses.
Of course, yeah.
It's spooky. So, Spooky Burke and Spooky Hare were eventually imprisoned. How were they caught?
Well, the way they killed people was they had their own bed and breakfast, and they would lure in tourists and drunk people. They would drug them, essentially. They would give them whiskey, like the stuff that you're drinking,
Brandy.
and over time, they would just die out, and they would take those bodies and give them away. One of the tenants, she forgot I think it was her luggage, and she came back to pick it up, and she found a dead body under the bed sheets. So she ran and told the police about it. They eventually got prosecuted, and William Burke was seen as the planner of the two. And William Hare, he was given immunity as long as he gave evidence to the court. So he didn't get to jail. But Burke, on the other hand, he was hung and eventually dissected like his victims in the Edinburgh Medical School. And it was so popular that they had to bring in separate groups to see it. And eventually his body was hung in the Edinburgh Anatomical Museum. Some people were saying, like a few decades later, that you could buy wallets with dried skin from William Burke. Like, they couldn't confirm it, but it was claimed in those tourist stops that you could buy it. So.
Ooh. It's quite ironic that his body got dissected and
Yes.
hacked to pieces. Eh?
Mm-hmm.
Very ironic indeed.
You can still see a skeleton today. So.
This is weird.
It's supposed to be
What colour eyes do you have? Is it green or blue?
blue.
Blue.
I'm pretty sure they're blue. I can't really see them myself, but
Okay. I'm just curious.
well, that was some spooky, spooky stuff. I'm sure you at home agree. If I wasn't a wee bit intoxicated, I would be a lot more spooked than I am right now. Thanks, Aberdeen Adam. And now, let's have a look at the trailer for the Burke and Hare movie.
Edinburgh, 1828. The greatest minds came from all over the world. And so did these guys.
We've got no money to speak of, no plan.
We just have to work out what the demand is for and then supply it.
Within every cloud is a silver line.
Burke and Hare is an awful movie. It's absolutely terrible. I went to the cinema to see it thinking it'd be japes, some funny moments with my favourite actors Simon Pegg, Andy Serkis, and it's just a miserable circus full of celebrity cameos just sullying the name of Edinburgh's greatest heroes. It's got terrible performance by Ronnie Corbett. God rest his soul, he's dead now. It puts the hangman in a better light than the people that were actually the murdering people. The whole scenes set in the university make no sense. Why are they so happy? Why are they so happy about the bodies? This is not your typical medical school. And what's with the chariot scene? I've spent so much time dwelling over with the chariot scene. I can't believe they kept that in the movie. If there was something they should have cut, it just that one scene just ruins the flow of the entire piece. You shouldn't go see it. It's got dreadful performances from Bill Bailey, one of my favourite comedians. It drags his name through the mud. And it's just got so many plot holes. Why is the wife okay with it? Don't think that happened in real life. Why are they always selling, why are they, and oh God, the ending. Well, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but if you like a film to resolve on a good note, even a sad ending would have been better in this case. This is garbage. Don't go see it. Christopher Lee dying before his time, and Ronnie Corbett bullying the peasants of the old town. 5 out of 5 stars, guys. 5 out of 5.
I beg your pardon?
Burke and Hare.
Our next spooky story takes place in a kirkyard, Greyfriars to be specific. This tale ain't for the faint-hearted. This is perhaps where some of the darkest moments in Scottish history has taken place. This one is a guaranteed spooker. Here's Peter to tell you more.
One of the scariest places in town is right here in Greyfriars Kirk. It's best well known for the story of Greyfriars Bobby, a faithful little Skye Terrier who stayed at his owner's grave night after night for over 10 years. Perhaps the tourists come here as this is some inspiration for many of J.K. Rowling's characters in her hit novel Harry Potter. Voldemort, the original Thomas Riddle, lays to rest here in Greyfriars Graveyard.
The graveyard was erected due to St Giles on the Royal Mile being unable to handle the level of rotting corpses in the summertime. According to council records of 1561, they built it further from the middle of town so the smell wouldn't drift down the Royal Mile. There's rumoured to be another in this cemetery that's not quite at rest though. Sir George Mackenzie of Rosehall was a lawyer and the Lord Advocate of Scotland in the 17th century. He was a noble gentleman, but left this world with the name Bloody Mackenzie, the name of a brute. The Covenanters were a Scottish Presbyterian sect that were persecuted in the pre-Jacobite era. After 1,200 Covenanters were captured after the Battle of Bothwell Brig in 1679, there was no space to imprison all of them. Greyfriars became a makeshift Covenanters' prison, where over 400 Covenanters were sent to die. Bloody Mackenzie left them to rot in a concentration camp next to Greyfriars. It's here that they were tortured, maimed, and left to die of malnutrition. Some cases tell of squalid conditions, like Covenanters drowning in mud. So what happened to him?
He was buried here in a mausoleum across from the place where he doomed many to die. And on his tomb is a padlock, not to keep the dead in, but to keep the living out. 18 years ago, a man broke into the mausoleum looking for a place to sleep. He broke into a coffin just out of morbid curiosity, and just as he does this, the floor collapsed onto a pit of still decomposing plague victims. The homeless man was terrified beyond belief, screaming and running away from the tomb. But just as he does this, people start to get hurt. People are shocked that he breaks into the coffins, but then eerie things start happening around the tomb. Since the tomb was disturbed, there's been hundreds of incidents in this graveyard. There's been injuries, there's been unexplained fires. A woman was just found strangled with bruise marks all over her neck. George Mackenzie has become a true poltergeist, writhing over the guilt of what he did to the Covenanters. I wouldn't want to come here at night because it is a truly haunted place.
My God, that was so spooky. I'm spooked for real, guys. We're hard as nails here in Scotland. You really think this is tobacco I'm smoking in this pipe? So if I'm spooked, I can guarantee that every person in the United States is definitely spooked right now. Well, just in a moment, we're going to show you one last story from Spooky Vicky. But for now, there's just enough time for me to say my goodbyes. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the show. As spooky as it was, next week we'll be in Methil, Scotland's trash can, where it's as spooky now as it ever has been. So join me next week with your brandy, your pipe, for more Spooky Scotland. Good night, America. Good night, America. Good night. Good night, America.
Oh, Edinburgh Castle, the iconic symbol of Scotland's greatness and history. Millions of tourists every year come to see the stronghold that sits on a 130-metre volcano plug. But did you know that Edinburgh is also one of the most haunted places in the world? Some people even call Edinburgh the paranormal phenomena. So maybe Americans should ditch their own country and come to Edinburgh for some real paranormal activity. As you have noticed, it started pouring raining. This is what happens when you live in Scotland. However, behind the whole beauty and the great history of the castle, it can also boast having up to 7 ghosts that have haunted visitors and tourists of Edinburgh over the centuries. Right under my feet, the Edinburgh Castle is hiding the network of tunnels. Upon the discovery of this, the Edinburgh Council sent a wee drummer boy to see where the tunnel leads. However, the drumming stopped just at the Tornkirk, and the wise councillors decided to shut off the tunnel. The fate of the small boy is still unknown. Many witnesses have claimed they've seen a headless drummer boy roaming in the castle.